My name is Chris and you're watching Font of Inspiration. Why don't you stay a while? Now today I want to address something that affects both players and GMs, and that something is joining or forming a new group. Now the points discussed here are meant to help you make a smoother transition into playing with new people. Now why is this subject important, you might ask? Well, maybe you wouldn't, but let's assume that you're humoring me. So a gaming group is a social contract between people where the GM and the players agree to meet semi-regularly to become other people and just have fun for a few hours. Now that sounds simple enough, but a lot of detail goes into making a good group, and I think it warrants a closer look. Now I'm sure I'm not the first person to think or say this, but a gaming group is kind of like a relationship, just like a band is kind of like a relationship. So before you take that plunge and say I do to convening with the gaming group in sickness and in health, you might want to lay some groundwork and see where the group is going and whether you all want the same things from your shared experience. Now naturally not everyone is going to have the same exact vision of what your game should be like, but that's a good thing, as long as those visions and goals don't conflict on a fundamental level but rather complement each other. When you're meeting with new players, GMs or groups, take the time to get to know something about them as people. I'm a firm believer in the idea that it's far easier to game with people who you'd hang out with outside of games, because you're already probably going to have something else besides gaming in common. I mean, that's going to be at least one extra thing that you both relate to, whether it's your taste in movies, books, music, comedy, etc. This is why I think the best way to find something in common besides gaming is to meet in a setting that has nothing to do with gaming. Of course, if you're a GM, you have a lot more leeway as to when and where you meet, but new players shouldn't be afraid to make suggestions either. Now, I recently formed a new group with myself as the GM, and I decided beforehand that we'd meet in a pub. I mean, what could be a more fitting way to meet a new gaming group than four strangers meeting a weird guy in the corner in a tavern? So that way we were kind of forced to talk about non-gaming topics and see how our chemistries matched. For instance, I found out that a lot of us like to create stuff, ranging from just doodling or drawing to arts and crafts and even graphic design. Like for instance, one of the players had made this beautiful leather journal out of an old leather jacket he had. I mean, that's pretty cool, isn't it? I also learned that a lot of us like to play Mario Kart in our spare time. And Mario Kart is my favorite game to play with friends. So that's already something we can do when we're not playing RPGs. For instance, if there's some downtime or we're waiting for another player to arrive. Now speaking of video games, playing a cooperative game could speak volumes about the group's dynamic and cooperative skills. If everyone's just doing their own thing and the team is suffering for it, that might be a sign of what's to come at the table. Now back to hanging around in bars. If you're of legal drinking age and partake, have a beer or a glass of wine. Other drinks are allowed too. It's not a secret that a small amount of alcohol can help people find common ground and break the ice. Disclaimer: Font of Inspiration does not encourage excessive alcohol consumption. Drink responsibly. So in essence, coming back to the relationship analogy, think of the first meeting as a first date. Now you found some people that you think are interesting and you want to give them a shot without any long-term commitments. Now the thing to remember is that don't feel pressured to continue with the group if you feel that there's something not quite right. It'll only show up later to bite you in the ass. Having said that, give it a legit try. And think about the signs you're giving off to people around you. Think about what key aspects you as a player or GM want to present to other people around you, and then telegraph them so everyone knows what your deal is. How do you find these people? Well, one good way is to play in one-shots. Check out the RPG one-shot group on Facebook, it's really worth a gander. I'll put the link below. You could think of one-shots as speed dating if we're still going with the relationship analogy. You're in, you're out, and you come away with a lot of hands-on information about the people involved. Outside of one-shots, I'd recommend checking out various forums for local groups and players. That's how I found a pretty fantastic group. So what are some of the things to keep in mind when you've decided to play with these new people? Well, just like in a relationship, you have to foster an atmosphere of trust. Be the first one to lower your defenses by becoming the king's advisor with the ridiculous accent. Or the elder woman with the creaky voice. Now, no one wants to be the first one to show vulnerability. So show the others that you're okay with being silly, that you're all amongst friends. Even if you've known each other for just a day, and this goes double for GMs, you never get a second chance at a first impression. And that saying is a cliche for a reason. Trust me. In relation to trust, it's imperative that you leave your preconceptions at the door. Not everyone in your group is going to share your opinions and everything, or have the same background as you. So give them room to be themselves, and let their differences teach you and mold you into becoming a better and more adaptable version of you. Being adaptable is a great skill to have at any RPG table. Again, some ideological differences are just going to be deal breakers, and that happens. It's just a fact of life. The point is, give everyone a fair chance. So why is trust such a big deal? Well, quite simply, in practical terms, if you have players that trust you, you're gonna get away with bending the rules with less arguments. Now, if you're a player, your GM will probably let you do that really cool thing that isn't quite allowed by the rules as written, if he or she trusts that you won't abuse your privilege to do so. For example, take a look at the Provokers or Winds of Salin games on YouTube. Now, granted, these people are pros at being stellar role players and actors, but you'll see that each person in those games is absolutely ready to go with whatever the others come up with. To me, that is trust. Now, of course, I'm not saying that you should go along with someone's ideas if they're singling you out or detracting from your fun or the group's fun. Then again, if you feel that someone's acting like a douche time after time, then why are you playing with that person? Just remember that you should always talk to the person you're having a disagreement with before you make any rash decisions. Now, for you GMs out there, another way to foster trust is to let go of the reins and give them to the players from time to time. Encourage your players to occasionally run games if you see that there's a clear budding storyteller inside of them or a game master just waiting to be set free. Now, of course, you don't want to force them, but you will benefit from giving them the opportunity. It shows them that you care about the stories they want to tell, and by extension that you care about them as people and you value their ideas. And that's all I have for you today. I hope that you got some ideas on how to approach new people you're thinking of playing with, and I hope that you're building up that trust and rapport with your groups. Thanks for watching and have a good one.